Everybody wants to know who's winning the NBA Finals, but that is the wrong question. The real question is who has value? Because in this market, being right isn't going to be enough. You have to be right and ahead of the price. So in this video, we're not going to be giving picks. We're going to be breaking down the NBA like a market. Which teams are actually built to win those 7-game series? We're using 3 layers: the numbers, the fundamentals, and then the market. So where that money actually has been made, because the standings tell you who's winning, but the market is going to tell you who actually matters. So let's get into the video. Before we talk about teams, stats, or predictions, we need to start with one thing: how the NBA is being priced right now. So what you're looking at here is the current NBA championship futures board. These are the odds for each team to win the title. And those odds tell us one thing: how likely the market thinks each team is to win it all. The percentages on the right are just the odds translated into chance. So instead of thinking payouts, we're thinking in probability. At the top of the board, one team clearly stands out here, right? It's Oklahoma City. They're priced at just over 40% chance to win the title, and that's just not landing in first. That's a massive gap over the rest of the league. After that, you're going to start to see second tier teams, teams like Denver, San Antonio, and Cleveland. These teams are respected, but the market is saying that they're clearly behind the Thunder. They have a chance, but they're not the favorite, or they're clearly not the favorite. Then you move into the middle of the board. We're talking about teams like Boston, Detroit, and New York. These are solid teams, very competitive, but the market is pricing them as needing things to go almost 100% right, not as teams that actually control their own destiny, so to speak. Then you have the longer shots. You're talking about Houston, Minnesota, the Lakers, even Philly here. These teams are still alive, but the market is assigning them much smaller chances to win it all. And at this stage, we're not saying that the market's right, and we're not saying it's wrong. We're just establishing the baseline. This is what the market believes. And once you understand the price, then you can start asking the only question that matters: is it right, or is there an edge? So if you like this type of breakdown of unbiased handicapping, hit that subscribe button here at Grandstand Sports Data. We are all about this type of content. All right, now let's look at where the league stands right now. This is the current playoff picture: East on the left, West on the right. Records show you who's winning, right? Starting in the East, Detroit sits at the top, most consistent team so far. Boston right behind them, still one of the most complete teams in the league. Then we have New York and Cleveland, good teams, but not separating from the pack by any means. And then from there, we have Toronto, Philly, and Orlando. These are the playoff teams, or just squeaking in there, or play in teams, but they're more in that middle tier. And then in the field, not necessarily controlling it. Now in the West, we have Oklahoma City. They're leading that conference. And then not just in the standings, they're also leading in the market price from what you've seen. San Antonio right behind them. Then Houston and Denver all in the mix. And just like the East, the middle is crowded. We've got Minnesota, the Lakers, Phoenix, all fighting for position in the playoffs. So when you zoom out here, you see the structure: a few teams at the top, a large group in the middle, and then everyone else fighting to move up. And that's where it kind of gets interesting. So if you like this type of content and talking about the Ball Street theme when we look at futures, please hit that like button. It's going to show that you enjoy this content, and we will keep creating more Ball Street series. All right, now we go deeper. This is going to be our numbers board. So every number that you see is where that team ranks in the league. And the key here is these differential stats. These are basically net stats, or think for minus against, or what you gain versus what you give up. So this isn't just about production, it's going to be about impact. We're not looking at one stat, we're looking at how teams win statistically. We're going to be measuring power rating, net rating. We also have 2 efficiency shooting metrics here: turnovers and how well a team can develop points from the free throw line. So instead of guessing, we can see who's winning and then also why. So we're going to start with Oklahoma City. They're number 1 in power rating, number 1 in net rating, number 1 in efficiency. They're number 1 everywhere, right? That's not just good, that's basically dominant. And it matches basically the market. I would say the pattern that we've been seeing so far. Detroit, they're top 2 in power and in net rating, top 5 in terms of shooting. They're not necessarily perfect, but clearly one of the top teams. Boston comes in top 3, and across the board, no major weaknesses you can see. Just a complete overall team. Now, a different profile would be Denver. Elite shooting, top of the league in efficiency, but they lose possessions. So there's a trade-off there. Lakers, they're more middle of the pack in power and net rating. They're efficient, but low turnovers, but not necessarily controlling basketball games from some of the stats that you can see. Minnesota, they got strong ratings, good shooting, but not dominant anywhere. So when you kind of step back and you see the tiers, there's one dominant team. It's Oklahoma City. And you got some strong contenders, maybe Detroit, Boston, San Antonio, then teams with strengths, but clear weaknesses, right? And that's the difference. The standings tell you who's winning. This tells you how they're winning. And next, we're going to see how it can hold up in playoff environments. All right, we looked at the numbers. Now, this is how playoff games are actually won. We're going to be looking at 5 factors, and the ranks are going to be just the same as the last slide, but these are going to be just them ranking amongst themselves. So there's 11 teams. You'll see 1 through 11. The 5 factors that we are measuring here are star power, which is measured by the team with all NBA or all star type players. And those players' last 3 years' performance in the regular season, playoffs, and playoff clutch numbers. So we're breaking it down basically in 3 ways, and those are the numbers for it. Matchups will be who can attack weaknesses, measured by defensive metrics for positional scoring, distance scoring like rim versus 3 point, and then also styles like pick and roll and isolation defenses. That's how we determine the matchups. Coaching, basically who makes the best adjustments. Me, just personally giving advice, don't put too much weight into NBA coaching. Pace, we want to slow, methodical offenses. So in the playoffs, you're looking for slow pace, not high pace. I know some people are looking for higher paces playing the overs in the regular season, but come playoff time, teams who slow it down and are more methodical win basketball games. And then finally, we'll be looking at physicality. This is control and possessions, and every number here is where they rank. We've already basically talked about that. Now let's apply it. We're going to start with Oklahoma City. They're number 1 in matchups, number 1 in coaching, top tier across the board. No real weaknesses with this team, and that's what an elite team basically looks like, right? Boston, they're in the top 3 in almost everything. Number 1 in pace. They're balanced. They can play any style. That translates in a series. Detroit, number 1 with in terms of physicality, right? Top tier in matchups, but unproven star power and running too fast in a slower environment. This could bite them at the end. New York is next. Elite star power via Brunson and his good clutch playoff numbers. But remember, they have some strong coaching now, but weaker in matchups. They can win, but just not, as clean in the series, I don't think. Cleveland, they're going to be solid across the board, but no elite trait, right? They're a good team, but not a clear championship contender. San Antonio, we have good matchups here, elite physicality, but weaker coaching, and young core that will make more mistakes in the playoffs, and this can show up over a series. Next would be Houston. Love to exploit matchups with a methodical pace, but it mixed with the good physicality, but they're not as dominant, in one specific factor here. They're more of a hang around team, is what I would call them. Denver, there's talent there, but bottom tier in terms of defensive matchups, physicality, that's where they're going to get exposed. That's not good going into the playoffs, just what their numbers look like right now. Lakers, number 1 in star power, but near bottom in structure, so they can steal games, but winning 4 is going to be much, much tougher when they get into those tough competition games. Minnesota, they're middle across the board. No major weakness, no major strength. They've been more meh throughout this whole, you know, throughout this whole video. So when you take a little bit of a step back, though, the regular season tells who's winning, but this is going to tell you who's built to win series, and that's going to be much more important when you're looking at championship and who's going to win it in the futures board that come with that. All right, now let's take a look at the market because the market keeps the score, right? Especially for your wallet. So this board shows one thing, how teams actually performed. So against the spread and on the money line. And then we're going to combine those into a market score. It's not anything specific. It's something that we just made up, but just to give you a good snapshot of how the teams are doing for your wallet. That's it, specifically for your wallet. Now, San Antonio is going to come in at number 1 in terms of market performance. They've been undervalued. Detroit, they're strong against the spread, also strong against the money line, but that matches what we saw, right? Then we got Boston, Denver, very consistent, very profitable, no surprises here. Now we go to the middle, got like the Lakers, Philly, winning some but not beating the market consistently. And then at the bottom, we have Houston, Cleveland, Minnesota, all losing money. Those are the teams the market has been overvaluing. And then this is the key, right? Oklahoma City, an elite team, but negative when it comes to market performance. So that means that the market has already baked in their price. Same thing with the New York Knicks. Good teams, but they're very, very expensive. So when you combine everything, you get three types of teams, right? Good and profitable. Those would be like your Detroits, your Bostons, and that's where the value really lives. Then you got good, but that's kind of priced in. Talking about OKC, New York, it's harder to find an edge with them. And then there's teams that are losing money, and that's not necessarily what we're looking for. So this isn't about picking winners. Remember that. It's about beating the number. All right, so let's jump into those playoff simulations. And this is where we put everything together. It's not an opinion. This is the most common playoff path. And it's based on everything that we just covered mixed into a model that will give us multiple Monte Carlo simulations. So we're going to start in the East. Detroit comes in at the top seed, and you can see why. They survive a tough first round and then take care of Cleveland. But eventually, they run into Boston, and this is where structure matters. Boston, elite efficiency, strong coaching, balance across every category. They get pushed to 7, but they come out of the East. Now, the West, we have Oklahoma City, best power rating, best efficiency profile, strong across every major category, right? And that's going to show up in the results. They move through Golden State. They beat Denver, and then they take down Los Angeles. More depth, better execution, and way more consistency. They're going to come out of the West, right? And then that gives us the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals. Two complete teams, one built on elite efficiency and the other built on balance and experience. And in the 7 game series, this is where the edge shows up. OKC, they have the best overall profile, number one in power rating, number one in efficiency. They don't have many weaknesses, and over a long series, that's going to matter. So OKC wins the finals, just according to our summary, in 7. And this is the key. This isn't a prediction based on hype. It's a projection based on how teams actually win in the playoffs, and most importantly, how the market is pricing them in. All right. So now we haven't told you what to do with your money yet. And this isn't about who's the best team. It's going to be about who's priced wrong. And the first team we got right across the board is Boston. Boston is a buy. They rank second in our analysis, but the market only has them sixth. That's a huge gap, ladies and gentlemen. They check every playoff box, and then we'll add, one of the better players in the league to their roster in Jason Tatum. That's huge upside there. Efficiency, coaching, pace, they're built for half court basketball, and they can win multiple ways. The market is underpricing them, and that is huge value, ladies and gentlemen. Next will be the Lakers, and the Lakers are the biggest buy on the board. The market has them 10th, but analytically, they rank 4th. That's a massive gap. They have elite star power, and in the playoffs, that's going to matter more than anything. They can create shots late, they can control games physically, and the market is pricing their flaws, but the playoffs reward their strengths. And that's where opportunity comes from. Do I think they have a realistic chance of winning the NBA Finals? No, I do not. So I do think if you were to tell me who would you measure better, I would say Boston has the more realistic chance to win the title than LA. But LA does have the better edge. Next will be Detroit. They're borderline buy, and I'm going to tell you why. So they rank higher in our model than the market. They're elite in physicality and strong in efficiency, but they don't have elite star power. And then also, Jason Tatum. If Tatum does not come back, then look at huge upside potential for Detroit. But Jason Tatum will be the biggest variable for the eastern side of the bracket. Next is going to be New York. New York is a hold. They're slightly undervalued, but not by much. So they're solid across the board, but don't have a clear edge. You're paying close to fair value, I think, for the New York Knicks. Philadelphia, they're a hold. The market and analysis agree that they probably don't even belong here. So that's that. OKC, they're a hold. They're the best team by the numbers, but the market already knows it. So they're priced like the favorite. There's no real edge here. And I know a lot of people will come, they'll email me or they'll comment. They'll say, "You have OKC winning the championship in the last slide. This doesn't make any sense." We're measuring value, ladies and gentlemen. Market versus analysis. We're measuring value. San Antonio is next. They're a hold. They're slightly overpriced, but not enough to attack. They're good, but you can expect growing pains from Wemby, just like any other young star when they get introduced to the playoffs. Houston, they're going to be a hold as well. They're slightly overpriced, and their structure isn't elite enough to push them any higher. Minnesota also a hold. They're being priced slightly above where they should be, but again, not enough to take a strong stance on them. Cleveland is a sell, I think. They rank fourth in the market, but only eighth in our analysis. That's a huge gap to us. They don't have a clear advantage in star power, and their matchup profile just isn't strong enough. They're not a great defensive team, and they also run a lot in transition, which doesn't happen in the playoffs. Remember, the pace moves much slower in the playoffs. You have to remember this, ladies and gentlemen. Denver is going to be next. They have the worst value on the board. They're priced second, but ranked seventh analytically. That's a major overvaluation. They struggle in matchups, and defensively, they have weaknesses. In a playoff series, that becomes a huge problem because people just hammer those weaknesses over and over again. So just remember, this isn't about picking the best team. It's about finding value. So some good teams are bad investments, and some flawed teams are priced to win. The goal is to find where the market is wrong. Again, this isn't about picking winners, it's about understanding price and finding value. So if you enjoy the Ball Street series, hit that like button. If you're looking for unbiased handicapping, go nowhere else and hit that subscribe button. And in the comments, tell us which team you think has the most value. We appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.